Hello, this is another video to troll you guys with. I'm just joking. I am actually very open to criticism. I want people to criticize my antinatalism. I crave it. So if you're so inclined, by all means, go ahead. I noticed that some of these articles too that I've been reading, they're kind of punchy, right? They're kind of like they're spicy. They kind of go after antinatalism in this kind of like this punchy way, this kind of they have an attitude when they write about it. This article is no different. It's by Katherine Dee, and it's from UnHerd. And the title of the article is "We Need to Talk About Extreme Antinatalism. Child-Free Doomsters Believe Life is Suffering." So I don't know how convoluted I'm going to make this video because I'm not good with words, so I might jumble up a whole bunch of things and it might sound confusing or maybe not like regular talk, but I'll try my best. So first of all, the article talks about promortalism and ephilism, which they say are extensions of antinatalism. I would disagree. I would say that promortalism and ephilism are two separate categories of philosophical thought. Antinatalism is basically concerning the cessation of birth. So whereas ephilism and promortalism are about ending life, ending existing life. So there's the big red button experiment that everybody plays. All the major players play it on their channels, like the Cosmic Skeptic and Sam Harris, and I think they've all played that thought experiment before. Would you hit the big red button if it could end all suffering on Earth instantly? Personally, I wouldn't hit that big red button because I believe consent is very important. And before I end the life of anybody else, I would want consent. And I would know that I'm going against somebody's consent if I were to end their lives. So I wouldn't do it. I think it's morally wrong. Even if it was going to end my own life, I would think it was morally wrong if I didn't get consent. So, and I know YouTube is going to filter me badly for saying that because it's going to sound really weird, but it's a known thought experiment, the big red button. So, you know, if YouTube is going to censor me for it, they're going to censor me for it. I can't do anything about it. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, so the core of the article that I wanted to get at, though, is besides, you know, confusing promortalism and antinatalism, the core of the article I wanted to get at is something that a bunch of writers, 3 writers, said about promortalism and antinatalism. So it was Ian McGregor and Sullivan Bissett's paper, Better No Longer to Be. In that paper, they compare, not really compare, but they say that promortalism is the core of antinatalism. So ending existing life is kind of the core of antinatalism, which I don't think is true. So I'll read what they said in their paper, and then give you their example of what they're talking about. So Ian McGregor and Sullivan Bissett's paper, Better No Longer to Be, they summarize their position in a single line. If antinatalism argues that it is better to have never been, then it is better no longer to be. For all 3 individuals, if you accept that life is suffering, it is reasonable not only to want to cease the propagation of life, but to end life. Sullivan, Bissett, and McGregor offer the analogy of smoking. If you think smoking causes harm, you don't only think people shouldn't start smoking, you believe that people should stop if they already smoke. So that's a powerful example. But let's break it down. And you know, I'm sure if you read their paper, they'll have more elaborate reasons for why they think it's this way. But just this example is powerful, and I think we need to break it down a little bit. So if you start smoking, that's bad. So it's better not to start smoking. But once you're smoking, you develop an interest in smoking. You develop an interest in the benefits. So there's anxiety. People use it to calm down, et cetera, et cetera. It becomes a habit. You get comfort from it, so you keep smoking. You have an interest in continuing to smoke. Now, if the smoking gets lethal, so you develop cancer, then the question becomes something similar to euthanasia. You should stop smoking, right? Because it's gotten to a point where it's now lethal. It's always been lethal, but I mean, now that you've developed cancer, it can interfere with your treatment. It can interfere with how you feel, things like that. So it would be best if you stop smoking. So let's map that on to existing. It's better never to have come into existence, because once you come into existence, you experience serious harms. Once in existence, though, you develop interests in continuing to exist, projects, interests, relationships. Like you develop interests in continuing to live. You can't just quit that, because quitting that would mean ending your life. You can't. It's not something easy to quit. Whereas smoking, you can quit, but you still have all your other interests, intact. If you quit life, you lose all your interests, so you can't continue. I'm hoping that makes sense, and if somebody out there finds a problem with it, let me know. I'm kind of convoluting it, I know, so let me know if I'm making sense. But yeah, that's all I had to say about this article, really. I just don't like generally in this article, I don't like how they're convoluting promortalism with antinatalism. It's just not the same thing. One's about ending life, and one's about not bringing life into existence to begin with. If you brought somebody into existence and they've already established an interest in staying alive, once they're gone, if promortalism had its way, you're annihilating a being that had interests to begin with. Whereas if you didn't bring somebody into existence to begin with, they never existed and they never had any interest to begin with. So you're not annihilating anything, because there's nothing to annihilate. You just haven't brought them into existence. That's kind of like my point. Hopefully it makes sense. Let me know. Bye.